I officially started September 8th, 1981. Well, that's an important date for me.
February 1st, 1982. So that would make it pushing 38 years.
40 years. I started October 1st, 1979.
I spent 36 years with the company.
26 years.
33 years. Lyles. Started when I was 24, so I'm 57.
I'm like a newbie compared to some of the people you've interviewed. I started with W.M. Lyles Company 34 years ago on July 14th, 1986.
40 and a half years full-time as an employee, and the last 6 years I've been chairman of the board of the construction operation.
This year it will have been 51 years.
We wanted to celebrate our 75th anniversary, and we wanted to focus on what was most important. And very quickly we realized what's most important to us is our people. So this film is about our people. I marvel at the continuity that has bridged the generations in our business. People talk about, well, you must have great leadership, and it's not that. It comes from the people that make up our company. Our employees that are at the end of their career or who have retired still care.
Got any stories from the early days?
Well, yes, I do have a story about Larry Lyles. And this was when in the hiring process, actually, Larry called me to make a job offer. The salary he offered me was less than half of what I had been making. So I called up Larry and I said, Larry, I really like the company. I would like to go to work for you, but I just can't consider your salary. It's just way too low for me and my family to get along on. He said, oh, is that what I said? And he corrected himself and increased it almost double. And that's how we got together.
Larry was a World War II military officer, hard as nails, tough guy. Everybody was scared of Larry. And early in my career, this was way before computers, even electronic calculators. When we had a big job to bid, we would go to where the job was going to be. And for a couple of days, we would take all the prices from all of our suppliers, and we would just have to multiply them out by hand. Just hard work, hours and hours. Larry was coming in and checking on us every hour, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We're working 12-hour days. At about 8 o'clock, he came in and he said, why aren't you guys done? What's going on here? And I was so tired and frustrated, I just stood up and I looked at him. I said, Larry, if you just leave us alone, we'd get this done. And Larry was chomping on his cigar, and he kind of looked at me, and then he turned around and just walked out. And the guy that was working with me right next to me, he stuck his hand out, and he said, Mike, it's been nice knowing you. It turned out that Larry respected people that stood up to him. And Larry, from that point on, really became my champion.
Mrs. Lyles was one of the most gracious ladies I've ever known, besides my mother. She knew what she was doing. She demanded a lot of perfection from people.
If you were a penny off, she found it.
She was just a pleasure to work with.
She could do these gigantic spreadsheets with a pencil, and back in those days with the ledgers, they have little boxes, and her numbers were exactly in every box.
W.M. Lyles founded this company with his wife in a partnership. January 2nd, 1945. He actually was cheated out of a bonus at his previous employer. And W.M. Lyles set out to never cheat an employee and to treat their employees with the respect that they deserve. And it's been that way since the company started.
It was so neat to see, even though they were so sophisticated in their business ventures, they were just like my mom and dad or my grandma and grandpa, like that. So coming from an Italian background like that, it was kind of nice.
The good thing about Lyles is they do treat you like a person, not a number.
Yeah, you're not a number. If you're worth it, they'll keep you busy, and that's good of them. A lot of companies say, hey, you're going to be off for a while. Or,
Yeah, we got nothing for you. They care a lot about their people. I mean, it's not just the business part, but I'm going to cry here in a minute. But the people. The culture. But, you know, that really makes somebody feel really good when they come out and do that. Like you're somebody.
I never had a wish or desire to go to another company because I don't think I could have had it any better at another company. I wouldn't want it any other way.
It's kind of funny. We've worked here for that long and we've never really met till today.
I know. I cannot believe that. I'd like to work with you. Hell, it'd be fun. Two old timers.
Our average hourly employee, with our managers involved, has been here 16 years. That's unheard of in a contractor with a high degree of hourly people.
There was a recession in the mid-'80s, and that was tough. We kept virtually our entire staff and moved forward. That's happened a couple of times, but we just don't do that. We keep people. It's a long-term plan.
We owned a company called Buckner Sprinklers, and it was one of our companies that didn't succeed. I don't think there was ever a plan that we were going to sell it and just let the employees go. Every option was who we can sell it to and who they can keep, because they are so focused on their employees.
If you go to work for a family-owned company, you think, are the family always going to be in the top positions? Are people going to be brought up? So that was maybe a little challenge at the beginning. I thought it would be, but as I've gone through my career, that was never a challenge at all. We hired a guy by the name of Stan Simmons. Stan said he'd like to start an office in Southern California doing sewage and water treatment plants. I was the president of W.M. Lyles Company at the time, and Rick was our district manager in the South. And it took us about 1 minute to make the decision because we both knew Stan.
I started the Southern Division office and helped expand our presence in the water, wastewater world to where now we're the largest water, wastewater contractor in the state of California.
Stan brought with him the ability to do design build. I think we've done now more design build projects in California than any other contractor. And Stan Simmons is probably the main reason behind it.
I've been given enough rope to hang myself. I choke myself occasionally, but I haven't hung myself yet.
We have got the best people. We've attracted good people. We've trained them. We motivate them. We make sure we understand what makes them tick, what they want to do with their career, and we make sure those opportunities are available.
I remember when we bid 12 years ago, roughly, an $80 million project, which by far was the largest project, and it had a quick fuse. It was in Tulare, and there was just us and one other firm bidding it, and we were low. We were significantly low. We were at 78 million, and the next firm was at 90 million. And Will Lyles called me up after the bid, which was rare, and he said, "Are we okay?" I said, "Yes, we're good." And that was, when we finished it, the most successful business project we'd ever done. But to have the faith that we would pull it off, it speaks volumes about why this is a wonderful place to work.
A number of people, they did better than I did at the position that I had been in and that they took over. And you know what? That's not a bad reflection on me. I think it's a good reflection if I help people to do even better than I did.
If you can't fit him in the right spot, then you find a spot for him. And ultimately, if you can't find a spot for him, you invent one.
My grandparents, when they started our company, built a team, and he allowed that team to participate as owners in the business. And that ownership mentality, that can-do attitude that came from that, continues to this day, and we've expanded on it so that all salaried employees in our company now participate in ownership through our ESOP. They bring that can-do attitude and a caring, and that extends even to their retirement.
I wanted to own my own company, but that wasn't possible for me in the scale I wanted since I had young kids. So Lyles fulfilled that dream of being a participant in a company, in that it's not my company, but it's our company.
Investing in Lyles from a stockholder standpoint in the ESOP, in the 401k, those kind of things, it was the best thing I ever did. Nothing in all these 40-some years made as good a return as the Lyles companies compared to everything else that I was involved in.
They want you to feel like you're part owner, whether you're the lowest person or the highest person.
Most other companies that are family-owned, they take the profits and they use them for their own benefit or for whatever else they want to do. With Lyles, they've been able to plow profits back into the construction and allow us to grow as much as we needed to grow to fulfill the desires of the key people we've got.
Bill had the idea years ago when he started acquiring real estate rental properties, was that you could acquire those properties, you could use the depreciation off of those properties to shelter income from the operating companies, the construction companies, therefore reduce your tax liability, but still have the growth. You can also use that asset to refinance it, use the cash out of it to invest in other things.
You started out in construction, Bill got into rental, we got into development, manufacturing, we got into farm.
In my 47 years with the company now, in one role or another, we've only lost money one time, 1 year.
I think our volume was about $8 million a year when we started, and now we're almost 300, so it's been a big change. But the quality of people hasn't been impacted by the volume. It's still good. It's still high quality, very loyal.
We're doubling every year. And Bill called me up, which is rare, and said he was going to come down and see me, and he had something very important to talk to me about. So I spent the day with Bill. I showed him our projects that we were building, and then I drove him back to the airport, and he said, "Pull over the car." And I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I hope I would still have employment after this discussion. And he said, "I came down here to tell you something very important. You're driving an SUV and you might be safer in a sedan." And that was it. He was just worried about my well-being. And that's Bill Lyles.
What does that story say?
It says who the Lyles family is.
And what is that?
A set of circumstances where they realize the core of our strength is all of our people. And they don't just say that, they live it, and they mean it. You made me tear up. That's not fair. 62-year-old grown man.
We had, for the first time, a Department of Labor audit on our pension plan. We had never been audited. They were auditing LDI, so the gentleman who hired me, Paul Reed, he did not want us to talk about Buckner at all. So Mike Elkins and I, like 2 weeks before, don't do this, don't do that, don't show him any of this, all that. So we get to the meeting, he comes in, and behold it, he comes in with a coffee cup that says Buckner Inc. And Mike and I just like are laughing, going, "Oh my gosh, all this time we spent, and here he is with a coffee cup." I think Paul got up and Mike got up and turned his coffee cup around so the auditor wouldn't see him.
I can tell you about a party where everybody danced on the... Never mind.
I bid a job at Disney Studios in Burbank, and the project had turned south, and it was going to lose a lot of money. And Rick said to me, you know, Rich, you bid this thing. You better see if you could fix it. And the day I arrived, the foreman quit. I told John, you're not allowed to quit. You take a few days off and let me figure this out. And I gathered the crew around me. There was no other foreman there. And I rolled out a set of plans, and I asked them where we are and started directing the crew on finishing the project. Well, they knew what they were doing, and they did a great job. And I got tough with the CM. And I remember us working 37 days straight, weekends, everything. And we made $5,000 on that job. It was so funny because we thought we were going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the kind of thing Lyles is good at.
I had a crew at another company for almost 2 years, and I didn't feel the same closeness, the same type of people I'm working with. They just weren't as gung-ho about getting this job done and doing as they're told and knowing how to do it as the people I've seen at Lyles.
It's not just one guy doing all the thinking and the other guy's doing all the work. It's a team effort. That's pretty big in construction. You can't do it yourself. You got to have a team.
Will did a job down in Brentwood, and I was working with him on that. And we had the pressure vessels, the sand filters, and I was putting in the anthracite, and I actually had him crawl inside there and help me level that stuff out. And I think he still remembers doing that.
I'll be darned. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I give all the credit to the field guys, but our leadership got good at enabling them to do their job.
Quite a bit of pipe in here.
Yeah. I guess they did the whole plant.
Must use a forklift or something.
Nice supports.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I would have got in on this.
Yeah.
They've been pretty good.
This has been a fun project.
I don't think it's about the monuments that we build, the big jobs. They are remarkable. But it's more about the people you work with and the fun that you have doing it. That's been the blast at Lyles.
Going to work every day is not a chore when you go to work with people you enjoy and people that you enjoy working with. That makes it a pleasure, and that's how I always saw it.
We're taking our time, and we're really getting the right people that accept our culture. Kind of like what Paul and Mike Elkins did with me. It was sitting me down and saying, this is the way we do it. We're not going to change. If you don't like it, you can go to somewhere else, but if you like it, there's all this opportunity here.
I went out to a job site, and we had about 110 people on this particular job site. And then I went out a week later, we had like about a dozen less. And I asked the superintendent, why do you have a dozen less people when we really just need to keep a pace on this project? And he said, they weren't our kind of guys, boss.
A lot of the other companies, I think, push more and force you to work unsafely to get productivity. Lyles doesn't do that. They want to make sure you make it home every night. Not just the people that's been with them, but the new hires. It's a lot of extra work, but we do it.
We're working just east of Bakersfield in Caliente Creek. And we didn't know it at the time, but there was 3 dams built up into the hills behind us. And I had these welders crawl up into the pipe toward the direction of the oncoming water, about a quarter mile into the pipe to do a repair. And I had another crew with heavy equipment in the creek bottom And it started raining, and then it started raining hard, and I said, hey, get out of there. It's urgent. And they said, all right, we're coming out. And it kept raining harder and harder. I was really getting nervous. They just got to the outer end of the pipe, and this wall of water came. The 3 dams evidently had burst, and that creek became a mile-wide river, and it was so scary. We couldn't get the equipment out. We managed to get an excavator out, and the water was up over the floorboards, and he was barely getting out of there. Everybody made it out, but the inspector, he got stuck out on a rock trying to holler and screaming at us to save the pipe, which he wasn't concerned about our lives. We were concerned about our own life, getting out of there. And we had to form a hand-to-hand chain to get him off that rock and out of that raging water. He barely made it, but we went up on the bridge and looked down on that, and it just made your hair stand up. It was so scary, and that's just a vivid story that's always been stuck in my mind when I think of things that can happen. We were worried about each other. And then the inspector, we even worried about him. Got him out.
What goes around comes around. The way you treat people, you know, in short term, maybe you don't see it, but in the long term, it definitely pays off.
There's quite a few of us that have only been with the Lyles group, and I guess we all got lucky.
I'm still not ready to retire. I tell them I am, but I'm not. My wife says the same thing. You're not retiring. That's our family over there. I said, I know. She said, when you do retire, we're moving into the Lyles office or yard. We're getting a trailer, and that's going to be our yard. I said, well, I don't know if family wants us that close. So.
When we talk about what we could credit to the Lyles organization, we could talk about volume. We could talk about success as a business. We could talk about profits. But their focus hasn't been that. It's building a team of people that work together and hire the best in the field. They've created, in essence, an organization, in my opinion, if we recruit leaders correctly, will last decades forward, long beyond my time. And I think that's what they could be most proud of, is the organization they've created, the people that take part in it, and how it's like a living organism. It's going to continue, hopefully, for generations of the Lyles family.
What I feel the most optimistic about the company is not on a particular thing they're going to be doing to get success, but they have an ability to adjust and adapt to where the opportunities are. That's an extraordinary ability, and I think it's one that'll lead them where they need to go.
Our key people coming up, the younger guys and gals, you all have wonderful talents. Don't be afraid to go to your supervisors and say you want to do something. And when you get the chance, you need to make the most of it. And there's no reason you can't be successful like we have getting to this point.
I want to say thank you to our parents who started this company. If you can imagine, one of them was 33 years old and the other one 34, and that took a lot of guts and perseverance to start up and step out at that age and make a go of it. My second thank you I'd like to make is to my brother, who 50 years ago took on a company that was strictly a pipeline utility company, and under his leadership we have blossomed and grown 100-fold. To thank you, Bill. Without that leadership, we'd never have gotten there.
I never dreamed when I committed myself to continuing what my parents had started and spent my life doing it. I never dreamed it would come to the point it is today, but it certainly couldn't have come there without good people that respect us and know we'll be there for them, and they're here for us for the long term. We couldn't do it without them. They've made us what we are today, and we thank them for that.
What you've accomplished is amazing. What we can do as a team is exciting, and I look forward to continuing to work with you for many more years.